this is something that I've never thought about as much as I am right now. How much should a leader be thinking about the mental health anyway of their employees? Because prior to the pandemic, it doesn't seem that that would be an agenda actually that a leader would have top of mind. But because of people being locked in their homes, it is a real concern. What do you think about the pivotal role of the leader in this pandemic?
Well, I think leaders should always be thinking about the medical health. I mean, the mental health of their team members, right? Just that now it's very apparent. So I mean, for many it is a pivotal role, but it shouldn't have been. Right? That's why you do your one-on-ones. It wasn't just to train them for the position, but it's to understand where they're coming from, where they are, and to help them figure out how to be the best they can be. So
that's
for those that have been doing it before, it's not a
pivotal role.
Pivotal role. Right? But for those who haven't, then maybe it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, so if you were to give advice to aspiring leaders now, because they're not experienced enough and they're now leading teams in this pandemic, what would you advise them to be mindful of?
I would be mindful of the fact that be sensitive to the situations and the challenges, the challenges, but also you're not there to spoon feed. You're not there to address their problems. You're there to be aware of it. Each one must address their own problems. They must solve their own problems. They cannot be dependent on the leader to perform. They have to be able to perform in their own right. Leaders are just there to help them be the best they can be by understanding their situation and maybe giving them some counsel, some advice, but definitely not to tell them how to do it.
Yeah. I'm listening to what you're saying, and it sounds like a very collaborative environment, no? Where many of the younger organizations may not have that progressive mindset. It sounds like such a progressive mindset. Knowing that a lot of organizations do not have that kind of culture to begin with, what do you think would be essential to tip the scales over to something that is as progressive as what you're saying, where individuals are more involved and not just top down? What are the things that have to be put in place?
Ideally is if you have the culture to do it, right? But even if you don't, it shouldn't be an excuse not to do it. Because the leaders don't need a culture of the organization to do something like this. They can develop their own culture, mini culture. And all leaders do, whether you like it or not. You have a mother culture, but you have your own culture within your team. And that's very apparent because the teams are different. You know what I mean? If they had the same culture, they'd be exactly the same. So I wouldn't, what happens many times is that people look for outside influence to explain situations. And yes, they have a role to play, no argument. But the reality is that a big part of it is their own. They can do something about it.
Mhm.
And that's where if leaders are serious, they can make a difference despite the situation they're in.